In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
We're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And if you'd like to engage in the content live, you have to go follow me over on Instagram. My username on Instagram is @LivinLowCarbMan. That's LivinLowCarbman. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content, just like Keto My Success and Holly and all kinds of other people that are coming in right now. Thank you guys for being here. If you do miss the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. It will stay up for 24 hours for you guys to watch it there. After 24 hours, it does disappear from Instagram, so go follow me on YouTube, where I have all the past episodes, over 200 episodes now and counting over on YouTube. Type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. Finally, we have a Jimmy Rants podcast on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. JimmyRants.com is the website with all those links. Today's Jimmy Rants is all about something that hit the news today. And I don't know if you've heard about this yet or not, but there is a U.S. senator who is making the claim that Americans are getting fatter and sicker because of their obsession with eating meat. I'm not kidding you, you guys. There is actually a U.S. senator who wants to run for president of the United States in 2020 who claims meat eating is the problem with your health. His name is Cory Booker. So Senator Cory Booker wants Americans to give up meat and to go vegan. All right, so let's see what he's saying. If U.S. Senator Cory Booker wins the White House in 2020, he would become the very first vegan ever elected United States president. The New Jersey Democrat recently told this website, Veg News, that he started experimenting with a vegetarian diet around 1992, eliminated dairy foods as well, making his diet completely animal-free. I remember my last non-vegan meal was on Election Day, November 2014. Booker, who is a former mayor of Newark, New Jersey, told Veg News, these days, Booker says we may all be heading toward a vegan diet. No, we're not. I'm doing exactly the opposite of heading toward a vegan diet. I am only eating animal-based foods right now, Senator Booker. Only. I'm having a keto carnivore diet and thriving. Oh, yeah, by the way. But he says we're all heading towards a vegan diet. I don't think so. I don't think so. Because in his view, consuming meat is not sustainable heading into the future. Here we go again with the sustainability of eating meat. Senator Booker, if you're watching this, I highly encourage you to look up a TED Talk. So it was a TED Talk from a couple of years ago by this gentleman named Alan Savory, Savory. Go look up Alan Savory's TED Talk, because in there he very articulately talks about the sustainability issue and how cows specifically are the answer to this issue. And all Senator Booker is doing is repeating vegan talking points, which is disgusting to me. Think for yourself, Senator! Think for yourself. You see, the planet Earth is moving towards what is the standard American diet. No, the standard American diet is chock full of crappy garbage. Okay? Not meat. We've seen a massive increase in the consumption of meat produced by the industrial animal agricultural industry. See, here's where it gets tricky. because I agree with vegans like Senator Booker. And if you're just joining us, Senator Cory Booker, a Democrat from New Jersey who wants to run for president in 2020, he is claiming that Americans need to shift their diet away from eating meat and to become a vegan. And so he's making the argument, which is a common argument made by vegans, that for sustainability purposes, we need to have people eat less meat. And now he's saying about the industrial animal agricultural industry, that can't keep up. And I think most of us in the keto world, we understand that there are better practices when it comes to how we process meat. But it doesn't mean you need to give up all meat. Animal-based foods are the basis of a really, really healthy diet. And if you're concerned about the industrial animal agricultural industry, then why don't we go after that practice, not meat itself? That's like going to one restaurant and you get sick at that restaurant. And then you label all restaurants at, well, don't go to any restaurant, you're going to get sick. But all you got sick at was one. But then you extrapolated that all restaurants you would get sick at. And it's the same with the meat industry. Don't act like because one version of it is less than ideal, that all versions of meat are less than ideal. It's why I'm a big fan of trying, when you can, to get grass-fed, humanely raised, all of these good things that we talk about all the time. It doesn't mean that meat's bad. It just means the kind of meat that you're talking about could possibly be less than ideal. And yet, he wants it to be about meat, not about the process by which the meat is made. The tragic reality is this planet simply cannot sustain billions of people consuming industrially processed animal agriculture because of the environmental impact. What environmental impact? This is, again, a vegan talking point. They like to talk about, oh, we know animals are destroying the planet. No, they're not. Go watch that Alan Savory TED Talk. They are the answer to the planet. They're not harming it at all. It's just not possible as China, as Africa move toward consuming meat in the same way that America does because we just don't have enough land. Want to bet? Get rid of all the soy crops. Get rid of all the corn crops. Get rid of all this agriculture and grain crops. All this agriculture that has made our health decidedly worse. Get rid of that and you got plenty of farmland for animals to be raised for human consumption. Plenty. Let's see. Booker says there are a number of goals that he hopes to accomplish through legislation that would affect what people eat. So he wants to tell you through laws what you can and cannot eat. Otherwise, how else would legislation be involved in this discussion at all? And why, pray tell, somebody tell me, why is the government or any political entity like Cory Booker, U.S. Senator, why are they trying to tell us how we feed ourselves? What business is it of theirs what we choose to fuel our bodies with? Because quite frankly, if I wanted to be a vegan, I'd be a vegan. But I want to be a meatitarian, where I only eat meat and animals-based foods like I'm doing right now. And I'm doing very, very well with that, Senator Booker. So how do you tell someone like me, who you think I'm harming the environment by eating meat, you think I don't care about animal welfare because I eat meat? I actually love plants. And I love plants so much that I refuse to eat them. Eating plants is murder, so I'm not going to murder those plants. But the point here is you can do a lot of good for your health by eliminating a lot of that agriculture from your diet and adding in real food, humanely raised meats and animal-based products to your diet. I have seen such dramatic, great changes in my health by shifting over to a mostly meat-based, animal-based diet. I wonder what Senator Booker would think about that. Well, maybe he doesn't care because he's a vegan, but he's trying to get the vegan message out there. Legislatively, I want to continue to be a part of the movement of folks who are fighting against corporate interests that are undermining the public good and the public welfare. You want to get rid of the public interests or the corporate interests that are undermining the public good and the public welfare? Let's talk about the pharmaceutical industry. Can we do that, Senator Booker? We need to do something about that, where people are getting sick off of a crappy garbage diet. Not because of meat, but because of carbs. And they're having to take all these medications to cover up the effects of their really bad diet. So why are we going after meat? Why wouldn't you say all of these same things about the sugar industry, about the refined grain industry? Those are the ones that have high corporate interests undermining the public good and the public welfare. They're the ones that are continuing to pump out sugary, grainy, carby foods that are making us fatter and sicker than we've ever been in all of our human history. You got the finger on the wrong culprit here, Senator Booker. It's not about the meat. It's not about animal-based foods, which, oh yeah, by the way, the only complete proteins that you can possibly eat come from animals. Oh yeah, by the way, all that precious vegetation that you think everybody should be eating, it comes as a direct result because an animal helped make it grow. But no, you don't want to hear all that. You want to listen to your vegan propaganda. And I'm here to set the record straight. That's what we do here on Jimmy Rants. I'm going to continue to support bills that are all about public health, whether it's pumping in all these antibiotics into animals that are literally threatening the safety of Americans. I don't like antibiotics being put in animals either. See, this is the thing with the vegan talking points. They pretend like everybody agrees with them inherently. And we do agree with some of the points, like antibiotics in animals. What we don't agree with is the conclusion of, thus, remove all animal-based foods from your diet. Not all animals are being pumped with antibiotics. So why don't we call for cleaning up the practices of how we raise animals for food and let that be the rallying cry? Rather than no meat, why don't we say no bad meat? Grass-fed, organic, pastured, affordable. Those are the things that would go a long way towards making it look like you're actually sane, Senator Booker, and not insane trying to make everybody a vegan in America. I believe that Americans do care about cruelty to animals. You bet they do. Of course they do. And that's why you see the public movement to stop pig crating, which is harmful and violates our collective values as a country. Nobody's for having these animals be all cooped up. If you've ever seen a chicken house, and I have 27 backyard chickens, if you ever let chickens roam free, they love it. You ever seen a chicken house like the Tyson plant? They have them literally like with nooses around their neck. That's no bueno. I am not in favor of that. But see, vegans want to make it about the animal. Oh, we care about the animal. And so, but if you treat animals well, their purpose in this world is to be treated well and then to become food for us. That's what their purpose is in the world. But not through the eyes of someone like Senator Booker, who is a vegan and wants everybody to basically follow in his footsteps. Now, I have a second article. See if there's anything in here where he said something different. The devastating impact of eating meat is just not practical. The numbers just don't add up. We will destroy the planet unless we start figuring out a better way forward when it comes to climate change and the environment. Oh, please don't get me started on that issue. Eating meat has very little to do with climate change. Eating meat has very little to do with impacting on a negative way the environment. This is just talking points from the vegans, and I am so sick of talking points becoming potentially U.S. legislation that would impact how you and I get to eat. He says he does not want to ban meat eating or even preach to people. Then what the heck are you doing going on this Veg News website, making all these proclamations? That's exactly what you're doing. You're trying to impact people and the way they eat and choose to eat in their diet. Here's what he said. None of us want our government or elected officials preaching to us and telling us what we can or can't eat. This is the United States of America, and I, for one, believe in our freedom to choose. So I don't want to preach to anybody about their diet. Then stop telling people to go vegan. Just stop it. That's not your role as a U.S. Senator. That's not your role as a potential president of the United States of America. It sickens me that politicians feel like they need to get in on the nutritional health game. Stay in your lane, politicians. This has nothing to do with you, and I'll be danged if you ever take away my right as an American to choose the food that I want to eat to be healthy. And for me, that is a whole buttload of animal-based foods. I double dog dare you to take away my ribeye. I double dog dare you to take away my ground beef. I double dog dare you to take away my bacon. Oh, if they try to remove bacon from society, yeah, they're going to have a riot on their hands. He waxed eloquently about his personal transition away from meat, cutting out dairy, and then finally eating that last egg in 2014, or whenever it was that he had his last egg. I remember eating eggs. It was almost like my conditioning had changed. Now suddenly eating those eggs for me was something that didn't align with my spirit. Well, good for you, Senator Booker. If eggs aren't aligned with your spirit, then don't eat them anymore. And you do you. And if you're happy with your vegan choices, you do you. I'm very happy with my animal-based choices, which make up 100% of my diet. 100% of my diet right now is all animal-based foods. So don't come and preach to me that you're not trying to tell us how to change our diet. You wouldn't possibly do that from a legislative standpoint. And yet you want to make this whole idea of a meat-centric diet being bad for people. Just stop that. Stop it. Stop confusing people. And Lord help us if you ever become the president of the United States of America. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. Lots of people here today. Thanks for being here. I want Cory Booker to give up vegetables and go carnivore, says Josh. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Sassy Keto Nurse says, rant away. I love it. Eat your meat. Yes, exactly. What a load of crap. Boo to that guy. LOL. No thanks, says Holly Jane. The problem is he's a U.S. Senator. There's only 100 of them. He wants to be your president of the United States, which is the most powerful position in the entire world politically. I just don't think this should be a political issue at all. At all. There's no reason why any U.S. senator or any president, for that matter, telling people how they should and should not be eating. Doesn't make sense. Holly says it's crazy. Yep. Val says, yeah, you can see cattle ranchers and those who raise animals for food voting for him. I don't see it happening. Yeah, it's not going to happen. I like your serene color of blue today. Thank you, Jess. This is one of my favorite shirts. Hello, Dory. Thanks for being here. Kitty Cat, give up meat, give up government. I will fist bump you on that one, Kitty Cat, for sure. Don't yell at the poor guy for not thinking, how can he? Well, Beth, he should know better. And I know if he's not eating a lot of meat, he's probably not getting very many healthy fats into his diet. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. He's just not. And so, yeah. Dory says they're pushing it in Canada too. Yeah, I recently did a whole Jimmy Rants all about the new government guidelines in Canada as it relates to they're trying to now codify with their nutritional guidelines there, Dory, as you know, a vegan diet. And it's disgusting to me to see this trend happening. And guys, we're far from over with this. when the 2020 guidelines come out here in America, it's going to be very fascinating to see if they go in this kind of direction that Senator Booker wants to go. It's going to be very fascinating to see if they try to push veganism on Americans. Kimberly says, is this even constitutional? I've been mostly carnivore for months, very little fruit or vegetables. What are they going to do next? Check my potty times. No, nobody wants that, Kims. What about the politician who is boycotting cow farts? Not even kidding. It's a real thing. Well, there's all kind of weird stuff going on out there. Keto, my success. He said eating eggs does not align with his spirit. I bet he's pro-choice and abortion. Well, we're not going to go there. That's a totally separate issue from this. But it is interesting that he's allowing his own personal worldview when it comes to diet come into this conversation. And it's good that if he's getting great benefit from his vegan diet, Senator Booker, I am all for you continuing on your vegan diet. Go for it. Congratulations, you found what works for you. What I, as a U.S. citizen and as an educator in the nutritional health space, want you to know is some of us are thriving doing the exact opposite diet that you're doing. And so acknowledge that, realize we all have bioindividuality. Some people do better with mostly meat. Some people might do better with mostly vegetables. Figure out what works for you, but don't try to ramrod your ideology when it comes to diet down everybody's throat. That's the point here. Vegans are going strong against meat eaters. It is a new trend, says Alberto. Well, they're certainly putting on a facade that they are stronger. I don't think they actually are. Veganism is still a very small minority in the population. Probably less than 5% of the population eats vegan. So I don't think it's as big as they are. Now, they're very vocal, those 5%, but they're not the majority of the population. Yet somehow people that do eat vegan have gotten into very key parts of our government and various parts of the influence of how we do nutrition in America. And that's how they've been able to seem like they're bigger than they are. Think about how long it takes to grow vegetables and how long they will be fresh, says Dory. Yeah, it wouldn't last long, would it? The animals produce the fertilizer. That's right, Crystal. You cannot grow vegetables without some kind of an animal intervention. Either the poop of the animal or the dead body of the animal becoming fertilizer. It's really fascinating when you stop and think about that. Vegan are depleting my food's food. Stop that, says Olga. Yes. Grains and corn crops are almost sterile lands. Not even the insects eat it. Does not fuel the ecosystem. Local farms feed animals and then fuel the ecosystem. That's what Alan Savory shares in his TED Talks. Definitely go look that up, you guys. We can't sustain factory-grown vegetables with all the Roundup sprayed on them. Oh, that's a whole nother discussion, seriously, which I like your username, by the way, seriously. It's damaging to the environment. It really is. Why is corn being grown to feed cows? Let the grass grow wild and put the cows on that land. And what happens when you put cows on land where they eat grass is they poop on that land and more grass grows. Deeper, greener, more nutrient rich. It's pretty amazing. Maybe we need to look at the sugar beet industry, says Jesse. Oh, not just sugar beet. It's anything to do with the industrialized food industry. So that's all the high fructose corn syrup, all the sugar, all the refined grains, all the stuff that's making people truly fat and sick that Senator Booker is refusing to acknowledge. And yet they want to point the finger at the meat, and it has very little to do with the meat. RL Black Bean, there will always be animals for consumption. So what happens if people stop eating them? Then we have an overpopulation of those animals. It doesn't sound very feasible. All great points. Hunters will not stop. I grew up in the South. Hunting is a sport in the South. They hunt deer and squirrels and all this stuff because it does help control the population. And if the animal population does get out of control, you have mayhem. So you're exactly right. They're not going to stop that. No bad meat, says Grass-Fed Girl. Yes, exactly, Caitlin. And unfortunately, people, they accept whatever meat is sold in the stores. But I think that's where those of us that are engaged in this conversation, we need to spend money on the good stuff, to vote with our dollars, and to show Senator Booker and other people like him, hey, look, we agree with you about the factory farming. It's atrocious, but there are better ways, and we vote with our dollars. So are you voting with your dollars? Keto Glow says, as a former vegan, switched over to keto. I know all about the vegan talk. I've changed my diet after switching to keto. And thank you for sharing that, Keto Glow. I have interviewed many vegans over the years, from Dr. Dean Ornish to Dr. Neil Barnard to Dr. John McDougall. The list goes on and on. The only one that refused to talk to me was T. Colin Campbell, the guy that wrote the China study. He just flat out refused to ever talk to me. And I'm like, I just want to have a civil conversation, but Skeletor didn't want one. So, yeah, that's the way it goes. But I think for people that do make the switch and they see their diets improve and they see their health improve from that, I don't understand why they can't acknowledge, okay, you found what works for you. I am all for people doing a vegan diet if it's going to give them the health benefits that they're looking for. I just wish vegans would have that same respect for people that choose to eat a mostly meat-based diet and finding health doing it that way. I think it's incredibly short-sighted to think that there's just one way for every body. That's just ridiculous. And every time I have talked to any vegan and I get to that point in the conversation, they're like, oh no, there's just one way, and it's vegan. And I'm going, that doesn't even make sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Just another reason to go keto, says Bonnie Lene. Exactly. I hate antibiotics and steroids in meat. That's why I buy grass-fed organic as much as possible. Yes, Ashton. And I think that's where we step up and we say we're going to vote with our dollars. They need to ban sugar and processed foods, if anything. Well, Holly Jane, I don't want them to ban sugar and processed foods, but I want them to properly educate people on what those things are doing. Then if they choose to harm their own bodies knowingly with all that they know, they put warning labels on cigarettes and people still bought cigarettes. So I don't want to ban it. I'm all about people making the choice that they think is best for them. And if they want to, with the knowledge, if they want to eat sugar and grain-based kind of junk foods with the knowledge of what it's going to do to them, then they make that choice. And I'm all for that. I love it when Jimmy screams, says Olga. Yeah, this one got me today. I just could not believe that a U.S. senator would be saying these kinds of things, knowing the power that he has to impact people. And I wonder how many people are laughing at him today and not really taking him seriously. I don't know, though. He does have a very powerful position as one of only 100 people who are U.S. senators. The anti-keto talk ebbs and flows. Right now, the naysaying articles are exploding again. I get it daily. Well, Jesse, that's why you come to Jimmy Rants every day, because you know I'm going to call them out. So please feel free to send anything my way that you think deserves a rant. I'm more than happy to take a look. I still believe that population's overall health is the least of politicians' concerns. May not be directly sent as anti-health message, but the underlying message would be to keep people generally sick in the population, says Kitty Caddick. And I would not be surprised if some of this like underlying stuff of promoting things that are less than ideal for people's health is a kickback from the pharmaceutical companies that says, don't tell people about that low carb keto thing. They won't buy our drugs anymore. If they don't buy our drugs anymore, we can't fund your campaigns and we can't give you money under the table for promote. I don't know that, but it's hard not to think that. Keto Healing Coach says, how about they preach about the processed food and sugar in America? Exactly. Truck RT says, where's the beef? You can have my meat when you pry it from my cold dead mouth. I love that. That's great. C-Doc says he wants to be our president. Not a great way to introduce yourself. Ironically, it was Mondale who got that nutritional pyramid, which resulted in the past 4 decades of increased morbidity. Yeah. John says he's out of his mind. I don't think he'll ever become president. Well, if he does, it will be an interesting test for all of us that are about animal-based foods. But yeah, he's a way long shot. Last time I looked, this was a democracy. We have the right to choose for ourselves what we are eating. And Ashton, he even says, well, I'm not going to try to tell you what you should eat. But he's talking about having legislation that would push people in a direction. Here's what I think he could do. He could offer up a bill that says we're going to tax all meat. And I'm not in favor of taxing for the purposes of curbing consumption, because people often talk about a sugar tax. And I go, I'm not in favor of a sugar tax. Do I like having sugar in the diet? Absolutely not. But as soon as you allow something like a tax on something and as a means for curbing back control of that particular thing, what's to stop them from coming after any fat-based product? So whether it's meat, whether it's butter, whether it's cheese, I'm just not in favor of the government using taxation as a means for curbing consumption. I'm just not. I don't think that's a good idea. I'm telling you, we're heading right for 1984, says Alberto. Well, we better not. I believe in intuitive eating. Figure out what works best for you. Yes, Dory, exactly. And if that means mostly meat-based, then so be it. If that means mostly plant-based, then so be it. But nobody needs to tell anybody how to eat. He needs to change his focus to changing the laws to making it illegal to inject animals with antibiotics and how they're raised. Jojo, you're onto something there. A lot of these issues that he's underscored have nothing to do with the meat themselves. It's the practices by which the meat is being raised. And so if you don't like the way the meat's being raised, let's go at that angle. And I love your idea. You can't put antibiotics in animals because then those end up in the human bodies and then has all kind of negative consequences. If you do it that way, he'd probably get a lot more attractiveness to his message than to say, well, because they shoot antibiotics in some animals, we're going to ban all animals. You shouldn't eat any meat at all. It's silly. These guys need to stop trying to legislate my rights, says No Mo Margaret. Well, sadly, that is what they do. Vegans have a lot of support from industry. They do, Alberto. I think that's why they have a perception of bigger voice than they actually do. They're going to jack up the price of meat just like the price of almond flour, crazy high compared to the crappy white flour. Well, Olga, I guess that's always going to be there. I was a vegetarian for nearly 20 years and obsessed with nutrition to try to heal my mental illness. When I switched over to keto and introduced fat and meat back into my diet, I finally got relief. Well, congratulations, Jax. I think that's awesome. Awesome. It's not our place as keto or carnivore to ban their food choices. And I'm not about banning anybody's food choices. And Crystal, you're right. They need to respect our wishes to have meat, and we need to respect their wishes to have only vegetables. This is the way I look at it. You guys can have all the vegetables that I would eat, and I'll have all the meat that you would eat, and we're all happy, right? I can hear Doc Muscles saying his opinion about this, says Middle of a Forest. I haven't talked to Adam about this, but this literally just broke news just in the past like 12 hours. So when he wakes up and he's out there on the West Coast, when he's up and at 'em and doing his thing, I would not be surprised to hear him. Taxing certain foods has not seemed to hurt sales, says Val. Well, if people still buy food, what I want to know is, what do they do with the taxation? Let's say they throw some tax on meat. What do they do with those tax dollars? Vegan education? It's like, where's it going towards? Some states have a fat tax already, which is a sugar or sweet food tax. Yeah. Let's see. The political minority screams the loudest, and that's okay. We just need to listen to the talking points and decide what resonates, says Jesse. Yeah, and sadly, I bet if you took a poll of Americans, if you had your choice, which would you rather give up? All meat or all vegetables? That would be a fascinating poll of what people would choose. Now, you're going to have some people, oh, you can't give up all vegetables. I love my meat. And then you have other people, oh, yeah, I can give up the vegetables. Give me all the meat in the world. I would be in the latter category, by the way. That would be fascinating, would it not? They can have my serving of vegetables. I'll take their serving of meat. Exactly, Crystal. So, guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants is we're going to have people that are in very powerful political positions like Senator Cory Booker, who are going to advocate for the complete elimination of meat from our diet. I don't care what he said. He said, oh, I'm not going to legislate how people eat. But why would you even do the interview with this Veg News and tell them that you're going to be in favor of legislation to try to alter the way people eat for the sake of, quote, public health? So you got to be aware of this, guys. There is a huge underpinning of a push towards making us all plant-based. And if we don't rise up now and call it out when we see it, which is why I did this Jimmy Rants here today, then don't be surprised when the day comes that they do pull this off, and we'll be like, what in the world just happened? That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, you can engage in the content live, just like all of these people did here today. Thank you guys for your comments over on Instagram. So go follow me there at Living Low Carb Man. If you missed it live and you're watching this on replay, thanks for watching, by the way. We get fired up a couple of times a day, so thank you for watching on replay on Instagram as well. If you missed the replay on Instagram, we do put all the past episodes up on YouTube. Type in a keyword Jimmy Rants on YouTube or on Google, and you will find the show. Finally, we have a Jimmy Rants podcast, which has the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form, and you know this one is definitely going up on the Jimmy Rants podcast. Apple Podcast, Stitcher, go check it out. JimmyRants.com is the website. So until next time, we'll see you then.